We're here with Jeannine Kunz, Director of ToolingU for SME. And Jeannine, can you tell us why ToolingU came up with the idea for this Readiness Assessment?
ToolingU came up with the idea for the Readiness Assessment for a number of factors that were plaguing the manufacturing industry. A couple factors include the lack of pipeline of kids going into STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's creating a lack of students coming out of schools into the manufacturing workforce. In addition to that, manufacturers are in this position of losing many baby boomers in the next few years. Actually, the prediction in the Department of Labor right now is 3 million workers in the next few years that'll be leaving the manufacturing marketplace. And lastly, as we see at this show, all the innovation and technology and advancements of our equipment and our manufacturing processes have created a greater need in the skills required in our manufacturing employees. All of those combination of things and the way the world is changing has created the need for manufacturers to assess how ready they are to deal with the gap in skills that are currently occurring in our world.
Jeannine, what are you standing in front of here? What is this timeline?
This timeline is basically a reflection of, we tried to go back through the years all the way back into 1900s and show how the world has changed, both from an innovation and a technology and how our world has advanced through all of the various innovation that's happened in manufacturing, how the world has changed in terms of how people are in their jobs. The number of careers someone has now is much different than the days where someone was in one career their whole life. All these different factors, the skills labor shortage kind of collides there in 2021, which is why we call this Mission Critical Workforce 2021, to show that manufacturers have to start thinking about the issues that they'll be facing as they go into our future.
What are can you walk us through some of the highlights here of this timeline?
Sure. Well, you can see a number of things that back here in 1946, the workforce in America grows to 60 million after World War II, and 1 out of every 3 workers was in a job in manufacturing. You start seeing that number decline as you go over time, how the number of people in employment reduces its number of people that were actually in manufacturing. Then you also see things like, the good old 8-track cartridges in the music industry. And if you think about the evolution of technology and advancements, when you think of now iTunes, so our world back to 8-tracks, not that long ago in 1965. And then you think about now iTunes and iPods and music stores are gone. So what do these innovations and technology advancements do to our economy? They have significant impacts. They change our landscape. They change how we think, how we consume, and manufacturers have to be skilled at paying attention to those factors to keep us relevant. You also will see things such as now in 1997, 60% of colleges and universities are often offering distance learning. So you start to see, as we approach the middle of this timeline, you start to see new ways that people are learning too. It's no longer just in classrooms, it's no longer just in hotels, and we have to start modifying and providing different resources for manufacturers to train their workforce. So we certainly don't want to replace the on-the-job training. That's still very critical. You still need to do a weld in person. You can't do that online. But there are things you can do online to increase the knowledge of your workforce. And as you go into other things here, you start to see Facebook, launched in 2004, and you see a very interesting fact that talks about if Facebook was a country, it would be the 3rd largest in our world. What is social media doing to our country? What is it doing to the young children that are coming out? And how, again, do employers need to think about these things? And how is it, again, impacting the workforce? We go on to talk about the number of trade schools and all the different factors, again, that it relates to how people are consuming from education, how innovation is growing and changing, and then the advancements in technology and manufacturing that require a much more advanced manufacturing skill set. What we do here down to 2021 is what we kind of projected the next 10 years. And in all seriousness, we're really trying to make sure manufacturers are thinking about these things, because in 10 years it's going to be too late. I mean, that's the main thing. And we want companies to be really assessing how ready they are and then thinking about and start doing proactively addressing these needs.
Okay, and so that's what this readiness assessment online is all about here at the imX show.
Yeah, really what the readiness assessment is all about is we decided we'd create something to help create a diagnostic for manufacturers to evaluate how ready they are. And it gives an opportunity for a manufacturer to answer a series of questions that relate to what they're doing in regards to on-the-job training, what they're doing for succession planning, what they're doing to maybe give back to the communities and the colleges and the high schools to encourage kids to go into science, technology, engineering, and math. So we have a pipeline of youth to fill the gap of skills that we're, the gap of jobs that we're already facing.
Can you walk us through what an assessment would be like for one of the manufacturers here?
Sure. The assessment that we created was in collaboration with the SME Education Foundation. And the reason we did that is that Americans that were polled, 68% of Americans believe that manufacturing is critical. A strong manufacturing base is critical to our economic recovery. Yet 30% of parents would encourage their children to go into manufacturing. So we believe that the youth in the pipeline of children being encouraged to go into this is also just as important. So when we created the assessment, we basically were creating it so that companies could take a number of questions to assess how prepared they are for the next 10 years. As we go through and project out to the next 10 years, we see that we're going to be facing a crisis in skilled labor shortage. And if we don't start proactively addressing it, 10 years is going to be too late. So we go through a series of questions asking along the lines of a training organization. So to what extent is their company offering structuring training programs? Do they have personnel designated to manage their training and employee development? And we go through a number and series of questions on mentoring, internship programs, how they're hiring, if they're partnering with their community colleges, to communicate back to the community colleges what kind of education is required to meet the needs of the companies, so that the local community colleges are also partnered in making sure that they're developing education that is geared towards the needs of their manufacturers and their local economy. So again, we go through all this, and in the end, depending on how a manufacturer answers this question, it provides them a diagnostic report customized to give them solutions and resources that address the areas that they're currently not proactively addressing in addressing the next 10 years. And along that line, we ask those that are scoring highly and maybe doing a very good job to maybe provide access to their company and their solutions to other manufacturers, to encourage others to follow the great things that they're doing. We also ask questions on mentorship programs, and you'll see here there's about 20 questions. Has the company identified the skills that they need to manufacture in the future? Are they assessing those things right now? These are all key questions. And the idea that I like to use as an analogy is when you go to the doctor and the doctor asks you if you're drinking, how much water are you drinking every day, how much are you exercising, is each time the doctor asks those questions, you get greater anxiety and you start to get panicked about, I'm not doing those things. Quite honestly, we're trying to create a little panic and anxiety among our manufacturers. We want them to feel the anxiety that these are things that they have to start thinking about now so that it's not too late in 10 years for our economy.
How long will an assessment take a manufacturer to walk through?
It'll take, we're estimating based on the current set of questions, it takes about 10 minutes to take the actual set of questions here. You can do it at the show. We have a QR code where you can just scan it, take it anywhere. So if someone's walking around the show right now, they're able to get online. We also have it available just through the internet. And they will instantly get their report sent to them via email, and if they're here at the show, we can print it out for them.
So they don't have to come to your booth to get this?
They do not need to come to our booth. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible and share the information back with manufacturers. Once we get a large sample size, we can share back, and then they can see how they rank among their other peers.
How long has this been available?
We are just launching it here at the show.
Oh, so this is it's Unveiled.
We're unveiling it. We felt imX is a great place to do this because it was bringing industry together, all the exhibitors that are here that are passionate about manufacturing, innovation, workforce. These are all the issues that we want as a community to come together, because together we will solve it. Individually we won't.